You're listening to Artistic Finance, Show 77. On today's show, I chat with lighting designer Ebony Madry. We discuss multiple streams of income for live event workers, or, as someone described to me after the event, multiple streams of income for everyone. We chat about the challenges of multiple income streams, what they look like for arts workers, and cover examples of people in the entertainment industry who have multiple streams of income. This episode was recorded live in Las Vegas, USA at Live Design International, the leading trade show and conference for live design professionals around the world. I hope you enjoy listening to this talk as much as Ebony and I had presenting it. Without further ado, let's get to the show.
You're listening to Artistic Finance Podcast, where your host, Ethan Steimel, interviews successful artists, leaders, and investors to help educate and inspire artists to grow their wealth.
A couple notes before we get to the discussion. Near the end, we give examples of artists who have multiple streams of income. Everyone we mention has previously been a guest on Artistic Finance. You can find links to their episodes in the show notes or on the episodes page of our website, artisticfinance.com. Our presentation was moved from a breakout room to the show floor, which was a great location. However, because of that, the only audio we have is not clean. Additionally, you'll hear an interruption from a Tesla coil. A Tesla coil is the device that shoots out electricity, like in Frankenstein's lab. I've put a link to a video of that coil in the show notes. After our presentation, we chatted with some of our attendees and learned that there's so much more to this conversation. Specifically, the answer I gave about NFTs, non-fungible tokens, was met with wild opposition. Thank you to the 5 separate people who came up afterwards to explain NFTs to me. So my lack of knowledge will be corrected when we record an episode about them, so keep your ears peeled for that. So now let's get to the episode. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're recording this November 20th, 2021, and we're coming to you live from Live Design International in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Live from Las Vegas! It's Saturday morning! Ooh!
So, I am Ethan Steimel. I'm a lighting designer based in New York City, and I'm joined today by Ebony Madry, a lighting designer and production manager based in Los Angeles.
Super excited to be here and share this physical space, after 18 months of Zoom. And so, Ethan and I just met in person yesterday, but connected, last year? Was it last year? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So Ebony was on episode 29 of Artistic Finance talking about being a lighting designer and working for a company anyway, but how she manages her finances. So check that out if you haven't. She's super high energy. On her episode, we talked about generational wealth and also passive investment and passive income. And generational wealth is only possible through multiple streams of income. And so who better to be here today than Ebony? So thank you for being here.
And speaking about generational wealth, this is just my approach, right? This is my approach to building wealth for my family, for my future family. Again, designer background that kind of happens to be influenced by other people that created generational wealth for me. So take everything kind of with a grain of salt. It's coming from our viewpoint.
Yeah. LDI did not approve of our message here today if we say anything wrong. Okay, so today, what are we going to cover, Ebony?
Multiple streams of income, what that means, why it's important, what multiple streams of income look like for workers in our industry. Mostly because it's very different to build multiple streams of income in what we do, right? When we spend 12, 16 hours in a venue. So how do you create that wealth when you're spending the majority of your time in one place? And then we're going to talk about some examples of that.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question for you right off the bat. Very simple and basic question. What are multiple streams of income?
So there is our base income, right? Something that you get through a check monthly, through working like a 9 to 5. Then we have our streams, right? Streams are something that are continuing, right? So getting one check is not a stream of income. So something that is constantly flowing and coming from you, whether that's passive, and we'll get into all that.
And I will say that it's a stream, so it's not a one-off payment. And that it's such a gray area, especially in the entertainment, because it's like we have multiple clients, we have multiple jobs, but those are one-time payments. So it's like the continuation of them is the stream, and that's where it's rather difficult for us to get enough income sources to be considered a constant stream. So I did some research in preparation for this about where this idea of multiple streams of income came from. If you go online to any sort of self-help, like how do I become a millionaire situation, it's always like you need multiple streams of income, which is sort of common sense, but it's just like understood. So I wanted to figure out where that came from. So in 2009, there was a book by Tom Corley called Rich Habits, and he studied self-made millionaires from 2004 to 2007, and he found that 65% of them had 3 streams of income, and then of all that, 45% of them had 4 streams of income, and then 30% had 5 or more streams of income. So he's saying, look at these self-made millionaires, they have multiple streams. They're not just doing one job. And then there's also this idea that it's 7 streams of income, like that's the number. So I thought, well, where does that come from? So I looked up and I found that there's a 2014 IRS study, and it was called Over the Top, How Tax Returns Show That the Rich Are Very Different from You and Me. And in that, they break down that individuals have 7 types of income. So that's sort of like if you go online looking to become rich and how do I build wealth, that's what you're going to find is that everyone says, well, it's 7 streams of income. So that's the general knowledge. So, Ebony, can you sort of explain a little bit more about what that general knowledge is?
Yeah, I mean, so just echoing, it is, I say, a lot of Googling, a lot of research. I think the beautiful thing now with the general knowledge base is that there are so many other places. Like, I feel like Google being so popular, but there's also like Instagram and Facebook, things that are making it more like readily available for people that don't necessarily always have access to that. So trying to break that barrier in how you build your wealth. So a lot of Googling, a lot of research, for sure.
Yeah, because I simply just Google how to build wealth and how to become financially free. And for some reason, I go back to that over and over again. I guess I don't follow the steps far enough.
and see, that's funny because mine is literally, I mean, I say this all the time to Brienne, my partner, is it's like generational wealth. Like I think because like I was fortunate enough to have that support system, I didn't have to, in undergrad at, studying theater, I didn't have to do a side job, right? Because I had that generational wealth. And so it's like, how do I give that back to the next, generation after me? So that's what I'm constantly Googling, and like also Googling like, okay, how much money do I have to save a day to become a millionaire by the time I retire? Those kind of things are what I'm constantly doing.
And it's also going from the survivor, like I just have to work to make the next paycheck. I just have to work, which I don't want to generalize a lot of live events workers, but I feel that a lot of us are like that, where it's like, I can't stop working. Like I couldn't, like when COVID hit. Yeah, some people maybe older near retirement, they were able to just coast for a year or two, but anybody under 40 or maybe even under 50 had to do something. So I don't really like the word pivot. It's just, there's a lot of baggage there for me. But it was like you had to pivot, so you had to try something else.
And I think like breaking that mold, right, of not just surviving, but how do I thrive, right? So I think that was something that we all had a lot of time to think about and really dip into our passions to figure out what do I need to thrive as well as, be financially stable.
Yeah, because there are artists who are financially free and who are doing well, and there are quite successful ones. And from talking to a number of my guests, there are artists who you don't necessarily think are financially well off, but they've sustained a career for 30 years or 40 years. Or I know we saw the Light Talk episode yesterday, and they mentioned people working 50-year careers in the arts, and
we both looked at each other.
We looked at each other. We're like, we have to do this for 50 years? I don't know. So, but we probably will be doing this for 50 years.
Mostly because we love it, right?
Okay, so this general knowledge, it's sort of made up of 4 parts. So the first is that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. And then the second part is that part of those income streams, one of them is a 9 to 5 or a steady paycheck job, and from there you branch off to the others. So then the third part is you just need to find 6 more streams of income besides that one.
Easy, right? Because like you have a lot of time outside of like, you know, being in the theater for 14 hours a day or in a venue for 14 hours. You got plenty of time.
We're not jaded at all, but you know, you get off at 5 p.m. and you go work on your other streams. Okay, so then the fourth step is very simple, very, very simple. You just keep those 7 streams going, and eventually you will be a millionaire. Everybody got it?
We're done. We're there. We did it.
Okay, so let's break those down each. Because I don't think that advice, which is general knowledge, resonates very well with people in the arts community. So, all right. First one, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. That is a lot to it. I'm going to come back to that one.
Then there's your 9 to 5, right? I feel like for anyone that, you know, and I'm going to say this loosely, is like an educator at a university level or that has a corporate gig, that's your 9 to 5. It's not really 9 to 5, but that's your base, right? So you already have your one stream.
But I would also argue that, at least from what I remember from theater school, was that the professors, even theater professors, they have their 9 to 5 teaching, but they're usually helping mentor during techs on weekends.
Right.
I'm not going to say the lucky few, but the hustling few, which is all of them actually, they're out designing on their own.
On top of that.
And so if you're designing, everybody knows this, or doing any sort of freelance, TD, anything, you're putting in those hours that the theater workers are putting in. Even if you do have your steady, because you have a steady job, right?
Yeah, yes. It is, I say, you know, my corporate gig, and it is not 9 to 5. It's often like 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. And so in that time, I would say, yes, I have my steady stream, but how do I get my others?
Yeah. Because we're all gig workers, it means, again, that one steady stream that we're starting with is actually several streams. Because even in tax year 2020, which was disaster for me, I still had 12 W-2s and 1099s. So, and that was in like the slowest year of my life. That all is one stream, even though you could argue, well, maybe that's 12 streams, but it doesn't really, in order to build wealth, let's just say doing that, I'm not on my way to becoming a millionaire.
So you would consider your freelance work, that is one as a bundle?
I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So, all right, but if you don't have a 9 to 5, if you're a stagehand, a technician, electrician, designer, again, it's not unusual to go from 8 a.m. to midnight, do that 6 days a week, which means that leaves you 8 hours, which you then have to commute with. And so that it's just very difficult because you have 8 hours of your life in which you need to find these multiple streams of income. Easy, right? But the other thing is we're also, even when we're on jobs, so I'm a freelancer, but even when I'm on jobs, I'm looking for the next job. People with their steady 9 to 5 job, like they spend, 3 months looking for a job, and they put that much time and dedication into it because they know they're going to have that for a long time. And in theater, at least like maybe Broadway, you get a show and that will run, you'll be on it for 3 or 4 months. And then if you're lucky, that's going to go to tour and that's going to do that. So that actually could end up being a year of your life. But even that is subject to the whims of when is the tour got canceled, the tour is moving, and now you are doing another Broadway show. This is not a problem I have, having these conflicting Broadway shows. But you have one Broadway show, Natasha Katz has this problem. Now you're doing 2 Broadway shows at one time. Well, that's impossible. That's an impossible thing. Maybe Ken Billington has enough assistants that he can say, put this assistant here, this assistant there. But that's very difficult in of itself. That's a whole crazy, crazy thing. So all I'm saying is just that freelancers, you have to find your multiple streams in that 8 hours, which can prove difficult.
And I think that's really, and I feel like we're skipping ahead a little bit, but I feel like that's where passive income is very critical because it's something that you don't actively need to participate in, but as long as you get it started, there are multiple ways that you can not physically use your energy but still continue to get that income. And I feel like that's really where our industry of folks have to focus in order to build their wealth.
And it's certainly possible. I'm making it sound like this impossible task, but I mean, a lot of these companies here started as one person doing something, working on a little bit of software, creating a fog machine, doing something like this, while doing all their gigs, and then realized, this was really useful to me. I'm going to follow up on this. I'm going to sell this to other people. I'm going to move on. So a lot of these giant companies here, I don't know how giant they are, but they're giant. They started. So it is possible, people do it, and in a way we have to do it. So, okay, so then that third step, which is find 6 more streams of income besides your freelancing, besides your regular work. And so these things have to be pretty niche. And I would say, like, the common one online is, go drive for a rideshare company. But I do not support that at all.
Well, and when you live in like a city, right? Like most folks, as you know, especially, you know, starting off, I feel like you generally gravitate to a larger city so that way you can build yourself up. Well, if I have to commute to a venue, I don't want to spend hours driving other folks around, especially when I only have probably like 8 or 10 hours to spare. Like I need to eat, I need to sleep for 3 hours.
So I'm ruling that out for live events workers only in the sense of, especially if you're a stagehand, you need your sleep. I had somebody named Mark Santos on the podcast before, and he is now an apprentice at the Met. He's an IATSE apprentice, and just last week he said they're flying out of Psych. It hit a piece of scenery, and the fabric is 50 years old from that Psych, and the bottom pipe came out because the fabric ripped and it fell, and somebody shoved him out of the way. Safety is important. So in this 8 hours that we have, I feel like we can't be driving for Lyft.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very common one, and I think it's harder for folks in our industry.
Yeah, a lot of this all boils back to time. The multiple streams we need, use a fog machine as an example, but if you're going to build a fog machine and then turn that into a company, time is what you need. But putting in a lot of time at the beginning, that's okay, and eventually, but you're going to have to hire coaches, hire business people that know what they're doing. But time is the one thing. So as we're looking for these multiple streams, we just have to keep them passive. A lot of times it's like, oh, well, that's a big chunk of change to put into an investment that's actually going to give you something passively. So like stocks or bonds, those are passive, but you need to obtain...
It definitely takes the funds to invest in those, and it's like, okay, how do I get those funds, right? Do you have the ability to sell some things to get those funds? Do you have the ability to borrow money to get those funds to pay folks back? You know, I think that there are multiple ways in which you can kind of build yourself up in order to have that money to invest.
All right, so then the fourth step in that general knowledge of wealth building, which is you have your 7 streams of income, just keep them going, you'll be a millionaire. So, easy peasy. Okay, so now I'm going to circle back to point number 1, which is where did the idea that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. Okay, so that IRS paper I mentioned before, so that breaks down the income sources of the very wealthy into 7 categories. So those 7 categories are, if I say the category, do you want to say what it is?
Absolutely.
Okay, so earned income.
That's your paychecks, right? We talked about that.
Investment income.
So your dividends, your stocks.
Rental income.
Real estate, right?
Capital gains from selling appreciated assets.
So like long-term holds.
Yeah. So if you bought Picasso or a Monet, hold it for 10 years and it's probably worth more. Okay, then there's
or like what were those the Beanie Babies? Those were gonna make everybody. You're gonna be so rich off of those. Just hold on to them. They're gonna make you so much. You got it, guys.
Still have them.
Okay, so then profits.
Income for businesses that own,
then interest income.
Saving, CDs, bonds, loans. Those are my favorites.
And then royalty income.
So selling rights or receiving royalty payments for something that you've written or invented or designed. Those blessed few out there.
Those are the Broadway, the long-running Broadway shows.
Yeah.
That's what some of us are after. Not me. No, yes I am. Manifest. I am after a long-running Broadway show.
Yes. Speak it into existence.
Give me some residual income. It's going to happen. All right, so this breakdown is why every sort of piece of financial advice about becoming a millionaire always lists the number of passive income streams at 7. But I just want to point out that those are not really, those are just types of income, right? And that's broken down by the IRS for taxation purposes. Like that's not, like you can't really get those, like that's just explaining like how you're going to be taxed on it. So all I'm saying is that magic number of 7 is not really a thing. So okay, so there's a podcast that I listen to. Everybody listen to the Artistic Finance Podcast, #1 podcast in the world.
Absolutely.
Can I get a second? Anybody seconding that? Oh, many seconds. Okay. All right, but there's a second best podcast called Earn Your Leisure,
Yeah.
and they have a recurring guest named Ian Dunlop, who's an investor. This was an offhand comment he made in one of the episodes, and he says, from my research, I really think millionaires have 27 or 28 streams of income. And I thought that was sort of eye-opening to me, because I was like, okay, that's real talk right there. And I agree, because these 7 are not really 7. Those 7s are just saying this is how you're taxed. So good news, everybody. We actually need 26 or 27 or 28 streams of income. So also easy, right? Okay. But the important thing is that you need more than paychecks. That's what this is really all boiling down to, which seems to be common sense, is common sense. But just a reminder that if you're going to focus on building wealth, you really need something other than a paycheck. And it cannot be tied to time. That's, again, the thing of time. It can't. We're already working too much in our industry.
So yeah, this is kind of, I think, coming to my favorite part, and where really I focus a lot of my energy is in passive income. So just to define it again, that's income that comes in regardless of where you are and when. It doesn't need you to be in a particular place, a particular time. It basically happens because you've put money into it. Right, you're starting that investment, starting that base, and then it just kind of continues to flow from there.
Okay, so Ebony, don't want to put you on the spot here, but do you have any passive income in your life?
I do. So I would probably consider myself like a very entry-level serial entrepreneur. I have a couple little brainstorming ideas going on, but really my favorite one, or most popular, I think, for myself, is investing in day trading. Is what I.
Whoa!
I just started
sitting here with a day trader.
I just started day trading maybe about a year ago, 2 years ago.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Side note. So, did you get training for this?
Yeah, I talked to some people. I have a friend that is really great with investing. He works for one of the big companies. I always forget which one it is because he travels around a lot. But so we sat down and we talked about what to look for and how to kind of watch it, and then when to pull out, and so yeah, no, it's been really good.
Okay, I will say I did an episode with a sound engineer named Brandon Blackwell, and during COVID he went to day trading. Oh yeah,
I listened to that one.
He makes it sound not appealing to me.
It's stressful.
Because it's stressful, and it's another bit of time. Mm-hmm. So I'm so glad that you are doing that.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, investing passively is one thing. Actively day trading is that's a whole new job.
Yeah.
But good for you.
Yeah, no, just notifications on my phone. So that mostly because there are so many helpful apps out there now.
Yeah.
So that makes it a little bit easier. I think prior to these apps like Stash and Robinhood and things like that, it was more difficult. But now I can just set up a notification on my phone and be like, okay, I'm doing it now.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's move to what multiple streams of income looks like for live event workers. So, Ebony, what does it look like for you in your life?
Yeah, so working my corporate job, which is sometimes a 14, 16-hour day. I also am teaching on a university level, mostly mentoring students. So spending time in tech, time on Zoom calls, time helping them focus with their paperwork. Also doing theatrical freelance lighting design on top of video editing. So all of it is very little sleep still, but that's kind of my life in a little nutshell.
Yeah, you're on your way. You have your multiple streams.
Yeah, I'm there. I mean, you can tell by the look on my partner's face sometimes that she's not the happiest, but it all ends up working out because she's like, you need to sleep, you need to drink water. When did you drink water?
Okay, so I have a question for you if you want to take this, which is, do live events workers need multiple streams of income? Or do they only need it if they want to be millionaires?
So I think it's challenging, right? Because, and it's challenging mostly because of our society and capitalism, right? So in order to live comfortably, oftentimes as gig workers, you need multiple streams, which is the unfortunate part, right? For me, I would say yes. I think you need the multiple streams in order to retire comfortably. How many people, if you're freelancing, Are you in the union? Are you able to have that retirement fund? Or do you need those multiple streams of income just so that you can have the money to put into savings so you're not kind of living paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah,
right?
and I would also argue that a 401k or a union pension, that is actually made up of multiple streams with people who know what they're doing in finance, until they don't. But for the most part, that is made up of multiple streams. So if we could just emulate what they're doing there with the investments, we could, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll find out what IATSE's plan is and just imitate that. Also, I want to say that I'm speaking from a 33-year-old perspective, and I don't want to out you.
No, 30, millennials.
Okay,
yeah,
millennials,
up here.
So this is our perspective. So if you're from a different generation, I see some different generation out in the audience here. You might have a whole different perspective, but I feel like I've been raised that multiple streams, maybe starting when I was 18, 20 is when I was like, it just became like, everybody needs multiple streams. Like your self-value is if you're a business person, we love you.
And I'm going to echo that. One of my my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, Gammy, we call her the Bank of Gloria Leonard for the family. This woman, the way that she has created multiple streams of income, working as a pharmacy supervisor and then also having a radio talk show and all of these non-for-profit things, it was like, that's what I saw growing up. So it was like, oh yeah, this is what I do, right?
Yeah. And I think that's when you mention generational wealth and you're saying, how can I pass that on? You're taking that initiative to think, and you had great examples, which is fantastic, but you're conscious that you have to keep that going. Like if you don't, how many stories of, a great fashion brand that went under when the kids or the grandkids took over because they didn't really know. So I think it's good that you're actively taking it on, even being a live events worker, which is not a career choice that your lovely grandmother probably wanted you to go into.
She's supportive of it, but everyone in my family's medical industry, so it's like oh, I'm gonna go off and do theater. It's like, okay, kid, go for it. Even the other day, my mom's like, oh, you want to go back to school for nursing? I'm like, no.
Yeah. And I also just have to give the classic millennial example of, I had Jonathan Cerullo, who's a director and was previously a Broadway dancer, on the show, and he talked about being in Cats in 1981. And at that time, he said, I was making great money. I was making $2,000 a week as an actor on a Broadway contract. And I said, oh, wow, cool. And he goes, it hasn't really changed that much. So I looked it up. I was having a little trouble finding the actual number, but roughly a Broadway minimum for an actor is $2,300 right now. So that's 40 years later. It's not that much improved. And there's little stipulations. If they have to do little things, they can get paid more, et cetera, et cetera. But your base is $2,300. So that's 40 years we've gone with $300 increase in pay. I'm just saying that to reinforce the fact that we have to have multiple streams. It's not really an option. And then the other thing is, I want to say, let's not kid ourselves. Producers pay minimums. So IATSE has rules. They have minimums. USA 829 has rules. They have minimums. And we can all pretend that we make more than minimum, but if we do, it's very minimal. So long-time associates, so I'm speaking from the lighting design perspective, a lighting associate or assistant, the long-term ones, they might make a little bit over minimum, but their designer is probably fighting for them. I have some designers that I've worked for that fight for me, and I have others that just stay out of it completely. I frankly actually like the ones that stay out of it completely, because the ones that think they know what I want, no, it's not good. So anyway, but if anybody disagrees with me on this, if you are a long-time Broadway or union contracted assistant or associate that's making over minimum, please email me at artisticfinancepodcast@gmail.com, because I would love to have you on the show. So all this to say, let's not kid ourselves, we're making minimum contracts. And then if you're working for a nonprofit Broadway, that is even less than that. So currently the USA 829 for an assistant is $17.24 a week. If you are fortunate enough to be an assistant designer working on that fee for an entire year, for 52 weeks of the year, you're going to make $83,000. And then that's W-2 income, so after 33% tax-ish, that's $76,000. And so remember, that's for the people that are at the top of the assistant game, working 52 weeks a year and taking no vacation, taking no sick time, and also being fortunate enough to be on a union contract for the entire year. That is enough money to live on, but you're really hustling. Boils down to the fact that you need multiple streams. You're gonna need income outside of that if you want to retire happily. Not that the USA 829 pension is bad. It's a wonderful thing. It's fantastic. And if you're working that much, you're gonna have a good pension, but it can only take you so far. Okay, so then in researching this, there was a blog post I came across called "How Much Do You Really Need to Live in New York City?" And so this was for a single person living in New York City, and the minimum came out to $31,000 a year. So if you're fortunate enough to be making the $76,000, you still have to pay $31,000 minimum, and that's with roommates, with everything. So you have to live as frugally as possible, work your tail off. But that being said, you could still become a millionaire, I think.
Yeah, no, the passive.
If you save 50% of your income and put it into something. So if you were to save 50% and only live off 50% of your income, that you could save $22,000 a year if you're living minimally on the Broadway contract for 52 weeks a year. So $22,000 invested at a 6% return today. In 30 years from now, so in 2050, you would have $1.8 million. That's fantastic, but you're only going to do that if you're a really good lighting associate and you're sort of part of the FIRE community, which is financial independence, retire early. If you're really dedicated to doing that, and your family has to be on board with that, with you working that much. So this is just a nail in the coffin here that we do need multiple streams of income. Disagree with me if you will, but we do.
Yeah, so I think let's jump back into the passive incomes, defining those, breaking those down a little bit more. So there are three types. There is the passive income, which we'll break down. There's partial passive investments, and then there's your active side hustles. So with your passive investments, there are dividends, which is money that is paid out, often quarterly. So if you invest, if you're a shareholder, those get paid back to you. Oftentimes in 25 cents or dollar increments, but you'll get there. There's also CDs, which are certificates of deposits. So basically you invest an amount of money or put an amount of money into a bank over an extended period of time, then they return that money to you plus what you originally put in. So finding those opportunities.
Also, I want to throw in again my 33-year-old perspective, which is that CDs are a joke.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, I was like, I mean,
but it exists. It exists, and it's better than doing nothing.
Finding them. Yeah, and then money lending. Going back to the Bank of Gloria Leonard, she is definitely a money lender and putting interest on things. So loaning that money out to someone. But again, these are all things that you also need money to do. So kind of getting that base so that you can build up that passive investment income. And then investing in companies. There are several apps for this. Stash, Robinhood. I really love those apps, mostly because you don't need a lot of money for those. You can do like $5, $10, and great opportunities are on there. Like, I mean, there's Tesla, there's Apple. Invest in those companies that you know that you can do the research on, that are public, but they're so easily accessible. And the fact that you can put $5 towards some Tesla stock, and if you do that every couple of weeks, like, oh cool, I have a little Tesla.
All right, if you're not here in the room with us, this is the Tesla coil going off.
Which is super cool. It's like
super cool. Everybody should check it out, but it makes quite a bit of noise. We can see it from our perspective, but you probably can't. But anyway, yeah, Ellen, who invited us to give this talk, apologized. She said, I put you on the show floor, and I just want you to know it's going to be a little noisy.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. I think it's super cool.
It's pretty amazing. It plays songs sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to say that talking about Robinhood and buying stocks in company, this, of course, requires money to be invested. So that's a key part of this, is we have to prioritize investing. Because in order to make money, you need money, or you need creative thinking and movement, but we're working so much we don't always have time for the creative thinking and movement. So the easy way for us to do it is to purchase passive investments. So I went and found that on the S&P 500 right now is LUMN Technologies. LUMN is the ticker. It has the highest paying dividend in the S&P 500. And in order for you to buy enough of that to give you $12,000 a year of income, because I figure if you could get three things at $12,000 a year, that's $36,000 of passive income. That's a pretty good start. But in order to do that, you need to own 48,000 shares. And the shares are currently $13 a share, so you need merely 625,000 shares, which sounds ridiculous, and I realize that I'm saying that out loud, but you have to start somewhere, and you have to start buying, and that price will go up. We have to invest. It seems intimidating, and it's like, well, that's not a way to wealth, but if it's one...
I think just like biting it off in pieces. I think breaking it down and looking at it not just like, oh my gosh, I have this huge thing that I need to do, but it's like, what little steps can I take in order to build that wealth for myself, or generational wealth?
Yeah. Now, what about, can you talk about the like partially passive?
Yeah, absolutely. So rental properties, if you have a home that you can, afford to rent out and move into something else, if you can go in, with a group of people and get a rental property, that's a great opportunity. Franchises, I really, really want to start. I'm really, these are my serial entrepreneur things. I want a Dunkin' Donuts. I want one so bad. Like, I don't know why, but like a Dunkin', I don't know. It just seems like something that, what they do, right? It's donuts, right? That's something that you're not trying to sell a lot of things. You don't have to worry about, oh, we didn't get enough of this or that to make, sandwiches or whatever. It's like, no, it's just donuts.
Hey,
donuts and maybe a couple sandwiches, a little coffee, super chill. So owning franchises.
I'm going to make that my goal, to go in with you to get a Dunkin' franchise.
Let's do it.
All right, everybody here, we're going in with Ebony.
Let's do it. Why not? It's like a couple of us go in. It's like, look at that.
It's easy. I think I sort of looked into it. It takes like $800,000 to start up.
Yeah.
But hey, what's $800,000 amongst friends, right? Business partners, business associates.
No, it's coming. Selling products. So if you're one of those true creative people that can make things, I'm not one of those. If you can make things that you can sell.
Yeah, and I want to say with COVID, I'm sure we've all run into this a lot this past year, 2 years. I know a lot of people that started making things.
Yes, my housemate makes amazing like Filipino like empanadas, and she started selling them. I mean, she was still actively working, but because she had time, she was like, oh, I'm just going to start making empanadas, and people would like order them, and I mean, the house smelled great, but it was very tempting to not eat those people's orders.
Yeah, and I'm just really excited because even last week I was working with a stage manager named Owen, and he says, oh yeah, I listened to your show, really like it. I was like, oh, cool, you listen? And he was like, hey, and I just want you to know that I make these leather pieces, and I sell them on Etsy, and I have an Etsy store, and I started that. So I'm interested to see, the people that have started stuff in the last 2 years, what actually takes off. Because again, that goes back to that time, like he can only make so many leather pieces, and your friend can only make so many empanadas.
Right.
However, some of these people are, sitting in this segment right here might take their plan and figure out how to systematize it. How to get other people to make the empanadas, how to design a leather piece that you then can create a business out of. So I'm really interested to see where all these people goes, because as work has been returning, I've noticed that people are doing it less because they're getting their income
exactly. And no, I think that was the beautiful thing. There was some beauty in COVID, as people just had a little bit more time to do those things that brought them other senses of joy. And most of the time it's because they were really good at it already, but they just didn't have time for it. Right?
Yep.
Other ways are writing books, creating course material, digital course material, which I feel like now, especially in our industry, is so, I feel like it's getting better. But I remember when you could not find a Vectorworks tutorial on YouTube. It was like, what is that, when you would search for it, right? So I think getting into those type of tutorials now and console trainings.
And I'm actually currently taking part in the Actors Fund LinkedIn Challenge, which is, first I had to join LinkedIn, and then I have to post every day. So everybody connect with me and you'll see that I'm, for 6 more days, I am posting every day.
And then after 6 days, then you're like, what's LinkedIn?
We'll see. They encourage us to continue on. But Alexandria Belavan, who's the teacher, she has created this whole course. So it's like 3 classes anyway. But I am actually finding value in courses. Like, I've never really actually bought one or purchased one, but Brandon Blackwell, he bought a stock trading course, and he learned. And like, that is so much more efficient than college.
I was telling actually some of my students about this, and I was like, this might be bad for me to say, but I was like, if I had the resources that you all have right now on a laptop, I don't know that I would have went to school for the period that I went for.
I would not have.
Because everything's out there. I mean, I love learning. So like, I'm always teaching myself something. Like lynda.com is like amazing. So it's like, I don't know that I would have gone to school if I had those resources.
Yeah, and there's also some talking about multiple streams of income. If you're thinking, oh, I can create a course, because that's also a common thing when you go like, oh, what are passive ideas that I can do? One of the things is make a course. And I've always sort of viewed that as, who wants to hear what I have to say? Like, but that being said, and also with artistic finance, people are like, oh, you should create a course, you should sell it, you could go teach it at schools, you can do all this. And even now I have imposter syndrome because I'm like, I'm just asking people about finance. I'm just asking successful people what they have done. I'm asking Ebony, how do you do it? How do you do it? But that being said, I'm now partaking as a student in part of these courses, and I'm actually seeing value. So I'm not planning anything right now, but if anybody's thinking like, oh, I shouldn't make a course, I say do it. Because one, you'll learn a ton from doing it, but two, also like, I'm interested. Like LinkedIn, I know, yeah, I'm young and hip, and you think I should know how to use LinkedIn? Well, I don't, and I'm taking a class for it. It is really helpful. The third section.
Yeah, the third step,
which is active.
Active side hustling. So teaching. I am an educator. Mentorship is super important to me. So giving back in that way. So teaching, consulting on things, whether that is again speaking from the lighting perspective, whether that's consulting on an architectural gig, on an interior gig, those kind of opportunities, and then subscription services. There are a lot of other pages and opportunities out there for those things.
This is just a side note for me that side hustles. It's been so ingrained in my brain that we all need a side hustle. Like, especially if you're in the arts, like, you have to have a side hustle. So I'm sort of like annoyed by it. But literally there's a show on Nickelodeon being for children, and the show is called Side Hustle. So that is like the American way. I haven't watched it. Maybe
okay, I was like, yeah, what are they talking about on there?
I suspect they're talking about side hustling. But also on my plane down here, I ran into somebody named Alex Coil, who works at the Lang Design Group, and he said, oh, I'm not going to make your session, and then he just went into talking about multiple streams of income. But he's a lighting director. He does a lot of news. And he's like, yeah, it used to be that you set up the news, and then you have a board op and maybe a gaffer or whatever that are on site. And so, yeah, you set up the initial design, you get paid for it, and then you have a recurring stream of income that's keeping going. And he goes, and now with YouTube and everybody generating content, he says you set it up and then you walk away and they just run it on you. And he goes, now that can still be a passive income stream for you if you get a number of clients and then they need maintenance every once in a while or they mess something up. I've seen some really messy show files of situations like this where you show up and they're running it themselves via a magic sheet and they press some wrong things and it's a disaster zone. But anyway, the industry is changing and it changes over time. You can't rely on the old income streams. But side hustling, active side hustling, and I want to say that with active side hustling, I used to also sort of be like, well, arts workers don't have time for an active side hustle. That being said, I did start Artistic Finance, and I then created a Patreon page, patreon.com/Artistic Finance. And I've always been like, side hustles, that's so not cool, and now I have one. So, should we now get to examples of people in the arts industry that have multiple streams of income?
Yeah, let's do it. So, Ken Billington, right, the lighting designer, residuals, right, from Chicago, from Waitress, lots of shows out there that are constantly bringing in income.
He did Dolly Parton's Stampede, which is one of my all-time favorite shows, running in Branson, Missouri.
Nice.
Also on the show, I had Michael Strickland, who is the owner of Bandit Lights. And this goes back to that whole thing of the 7 is not the magical number because he just has Bandit Lights. He doesn't have something else, just Bandit Lights. But Bandit Lights has a lot of, I don't know their books. I know nothing about the company other than it's a giant company. But he only has one income stream, but that income stream is made up by a bunch of clients.
Multiple returning clients, right?
Yeah. So he's not going anywhere. And the same for Ken Billington. He has the residuals, and that's really like what people need. And then I also had Irene Gandy, who she's a Broadway press agent. She's also a producer. She also sells fur coats. So like she is, she's like, you're like, oh wow, she's a producer. And then she's like, oh yeah, I hustle. My hustle is selling fur coat.
Yeah, no, super cool. And then there's Brandon Blackwell, sound engineer, stock trader. Brandon is no. He's also for Lizzo, right? The engineer for Lizzo. Oh man, that's yeah. I manifest this like every day in my journal. I write this down like design stage for Lizzo, design stage for Lizzo. It's coming. I'm speaking it into existence.
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to go into my streams of income, just like full disclosure. There's no reason for me to say this, but I feel like I want to say this. Just being honest here. So my streams of income right now, 2021, I do lighting design, I do lighting director work, I do programming work. Right now I'm assisting set designer John Lee Beatty on an archiving project, which, you know, has nothing to do with lighting or whatever, but I'm doing that as an income source. I also have a little bit of dividends from brokerage accounts, and I'm doing a series on the show called the Artistic Finance 6K, where we took $6,000 and we invested $1,000 into different things, and it's just me picking alternate investments. But so I have a little bit of dividend income, which I don't really count as income because it's like it's just there for when I retire, you know what I mean? So it's not really, but I technically do have that. And then my Patreon page, aforementioned, is bringing, after fees and after I give to other patrons, that's giving me $70 a month, which is, you know, it's not zero, okay?
Right. And I mean, like $70, that's you know, you being able to, if you want to, oh, okay, I can use this money to like go out or do something, or I can just use it and let it sit there, or use it to invest back in something. So
I'm paying off my microphone. But I'm saying this to be honest, because here I'm talking about multiple streams of income, and you know, who am I? But I am very aware that I need to create a product, or I need to create, you know, I need to follow Michael Strickland and create Bandit Lights. I'm very aware of that. So, but I just wanted to say that. I think we all do. So, you know, maybe we don't have anything now, maybe we're just freelancing, but we all need our mindset to be investors. Like, we have to be investing, and I find the easiest way is to save some of that paycheck and put it into stocks.
And just to go back, because you mentioned, you know, oh, it's just sitting there for your retirement. Your long term is for a comfortable retirement, right? Like, and so what are you doing for that retirement?
Wow, thank you. Yeah. Our hero. Okay, so I think it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for being here this long, with lots to see, like that Tesla coil over there. Okay, so Ebony, what did we learn today?
What multiple streams of income means and why it's important. What multiple streams of income look like for workers in our industry, and then we broke down a couple of examples of that. I mean, do we have a little bit of time?
Do you want to do a Q&A?
Questions? Do questions? Yeah. Let's do some.
I was very nervous
before we start to wrap.
Let's
do some. If we don't know it, we can just Google it like we do every.
Perfect. We have Wi-Fi here. All right. I can see that some people have some questions. This is imaginary. I see no one with a hand up. But does anybody have any questions about anything we talked about, anything we sort of skipped over and avoided the topic of?
Or expand on, if you want us to expand on it.
Yeah, we can talk. We have no problem doing that. Okay. Oh, our hero. Will you come up here and speak into this mic? Because I don't know how speakers work, and I'm afraid to cross that line.
Yeah.
So I did come a little late, so I do apologize for that. But did you guys talk about rentals as another source of passive income?
Man, I can't believe I didn't even think about that. That's a really good one.
Wait, for asking the question, there's a free LDI water bottle back there for you.
Outside, yeah. No, but I'm so glad you actually brought that up, because that is a really great that's a great way to have that almost passive income, right? It may be a little bit of maintenance when you get the gear back, but that's brilliant.
You were talking about rental of gear.
Yeah.
I thought you meant rental of property.
No, it was like, oh yeah, I didn't even. It's like, yeah, there's property, but like in our industry, what relates more to us, right? So like, you can have a couple of speakers, you can have a couple of lights.
Yeah.
You know, I know people that I would go, hey, do you have a Lico that I can borrow a couple Licos or a couple Gobos, you know? So that's brilliant. I think that's
yeah,
really,
there's a lighting designer in New York City named Jamie Rodrick, and he has, before COVID, it was a storage facility, I think, in Brooklyn. He just rented a place, and if you had gear, if you were a free little freelancer, you would take your gear there and you would put it in the garage, and then if anybody needed it, say they needed a Lico or whatever, and they're working on this little off Broadway show, you go there, you get some Gobos, you get it all, you know, all just free of charge, all that. But he right there is setting himself up, I think. And then actually during COVID, so I myself in my apartment had a bunch of gear. I had like 2 Licos and all the lenses. Like,
and how did Nicole feel about that?
We're still together. No, but I called up Jamie during COVID and I said, here, I'm reevaluating my life. I'm getting out of the industry. I'm leaving. Come clear this apartment. So I gave him all my gear, all my cable, all my everything, but I kept some. I have a unique 2.1 Hazer, which is like my pride and joy. But that being said, I actually myself have rented it out a couple times. Yes, that's a very valid a way to do it, and you can start small. That's a scalable thing. Buy one thing. The thing I'm actually thinking, I love Unique Hazers. Look Solutions Inc. is not paying me to say this, but they're the booth with the haze at the very beginning. I love those hazers, and so I own one. A couple weeks ago, I was going to buy another one, but it's like they have a DMX. Sorry, this is a super tangent, but they have a little wireless one that you can like make a wireless. Oh my gosh. Anyway, but it's DMX. It's wireless. It's $1,600. I'm thinking about getting it.
But that's a great one. I think, especially for our industry, right? Because it's like you could buy a piece of gear that you need or something that you need, like a console, right? I probably won't use this console all the time unless I'm like, going out on tour with the gig or working on a TV show. But
that reminds me, I have a Nomad too. I have a One Universe Nomad, and the other thing that I find myself as a designer always needing are string bulb. That's what I always need. So I'm constantly buying those, and every time I buy them, I'm like, I need to set up an Amazon shop and sell this one thing because I am always buying this, and I will always just buy for myself. Great idea, great plan. Do you rent out anything right now? You totally should.
Yeah, no, you definitely should. What's your field? You're just
Okay.
Yeah.
And where are you from? Los Angeles. Okay.
You looking for work?
OMG.
Yeah.
This is LinkedIn for real. We just did the real thing. The other thing is when I was watching. Oh wait, no, that was about rental. I'm going to talk about rental, like property, for a moment, because I went to see a Cirque show yesterday, Michael Jackson, and there's like 70 people in the cast, or some insane number, and I'm thinking, well, this is Las Vegas, which is not New York City, so I bet all these people own homes. You disagree with me? Okay, but I was thinking here maybe they could rent out their extra room or something.
Yeah,
New York is a little harder.
Yeah, no, room rental I think is awesome too.
Okay, so thank you for that question. Enjoy your free water bottle. Does anybody else have a question? All right, can you come up here and ask it?
What do you think about NFTs as a source of income for artists? NFTs?
OMG, do you know anything about NFTs?
Learning.
Okay, because I want to do an episode about this. So anybody here, if you know about NFTs. So basically, do you know NFTs? You have a mic of your own. Okay, so NFTs are, my summary of it is it's cryptocurrency. So it's a cryptocurrency tied to, okay, say this logo here. We could break this up into 100 pieces and give everybody here one of the pieces, and we'd say it's worth whatever we decide it's worth. So when we say give it to you, I mean, I'll sell it to you for $1. So it's now worth $100. Well, if we hang on to that, if we make more value, if people split up those little pieces, basically it works like cryptocurrency that you own. So I think NFTs are obviously the future. They are here right now, but we haven't figured it out.
Well, I mean, think about things like, Venmo, right? Like that's like technically kind of a little bit of crypto, right? In the like back and forth of it.
Yeah, and I'm not investing in NFTs right now, but I'm trying to think were you wondering how NFTs would work in our industry? Because that I don't, you know what, I'm going to have to say I'm not knowledgeable enough to know how. Because I know, like, on the show, we invested in wine, and wine, they're working on making, like, the bottle would come with an NFT of its own, so that you know that that's the wine, that's the real thing. So you could do that in our industry, is like assign an NFT to every light that's sold, or even a show, maybe? Would it work like that? That maybe a show, everybody can invest in a show through an NFT? So, not a great answer, but yes, NFTs are the future, and as the dust settles, we'll see how that's all working. Yeah, and I also like cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin. Yeah. But anyway, you can listen to the show if you want. Listen to past episodes of the show. But also, if anybody that knows a lot about NFTs, I would love to talk about that on the show. So, we're going to wrap this up. It's really important to talk about finances, especially in our industry. Ebony, thank you for being brave enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, even, actively when I was, in undergrad, in grad school, it was always like, hey, you'd ask your mentor, hey, how much do you make? And it was like, nobody really wanted to say what they were doing and how they were making money and how they were surviving, because I feel like it's always thought of as like, as artists, we're always starving, right? But it's like, well, no, I see you like actively working, and how does that work for your life? So I feel like we have to be more transparent as a whole in the industry about finances and money, because if we're not, it's just, people are never going to come out of, paycheck to paycheck living.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important to talk on an individual level, because when contract negotiations are going on, when ATSI's doing, a strike or something like that, yes, we talk about it, we talk how important it is, but I think on the individual level, the IATSE members are important. So we have to take care of our own finances, and then we can talk on a broader scale. But for me, it's like, well, how do you save? How do you invest? Do you have a Roth 401k? Do that for yourself first before we can get to these other... Because we all know we need to talk about it, and we do, but we like really do. So we need to talk about it with your peers. So anyway, thank you for being here and talking about that with us. I can't end this without saying, if you would be so kind to follow Artistic Finance on any podcast app or on YouTube. If you find value in the conversations we're having, please say thank you by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you really feel so inclined, you could buy us an NFT, perhaps. Or you could become a Patreon of the show at patreon.com/artisticfinance. And in return, you'll get a private podcast feed and you'll get early releases to the episodes, except when I'm attending LDI, in which case you will get late episode releases. And if you are in LA and you need an event put together, Ebony is a damn good designer. Yeah, and she can take an empty parking lot and create
and do crazy exhausting things in it. But it's fun. I'm very blessed. Blessed. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to pay her, and that will be one of your income streams.
Yeah.
So Ebony, where can people connect with you if you want them to?
On any social media, Ebony Madry. My website is ebmadry.com. But I'm on all the socials as well. So
cool. All right. And if you're in New York City and you need somebody to design lights for a Broadway show, I am very, very available for that right now. And also, again, I joined LinkedIn last week, so connect me there. I did it at the suggestion of lighting designer Dawn Chang, who was like, Ethan, you have to do it. Also, Beth Taramsha, she was in theater. She's now an architectural designer, but she also said, Ethan, it's the adult thing to do. So she guilted me into it. But I'm happy with it. So that wraps it up for us. Thank you again, Ebony. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You guys have been amazing. So that's it for today. So until next time, break a leg, everyone.
Yeah. Let's go create. Yeah, let's go create.
That's it for this week's episode. My big takeaway was that NFTs are the hot topic right now, so be looking for our episode on that. But what do you think? Are you an artist or freelancer with multiple streams of income? How does that work for you? Are you on your way to becoming a millionaire? Let me know by leaving a comment on YouTube or Instagram, or email artisticfinancepodcast@gmail.com. And of course, join the conversation on LinkedIn. That's now where I'm trying to be active. Ebony and I loved this experience. We hope to be invited again next year, so mark your calendars for November 18th and 19th, 2022 to attend LDI in Las Vegas. I'd absolutely love to meet any listener in person, and I'm happy to get a ticket to anyone who wants to go, even if you don't attend our artistic finance session. Thank you to Ellen at Live Design for the invitation. Thank you to the hosts of lighting podcast Light Talk for attending our session and supporting our show. And thank you to Ebony and her partner Brianne for traveling from Los Angeles. And thank you to Nicole, my partner, for traveling from New York to attend the show. This was my first ever public speaking engagement, and to say I was extremely nervous would have been a huge understatement. Thank you to our audience for being more than engaged. Going live on stage is a completely different experience than recording in the privacy of my home, like I'm doing right now. After the session, someone mentioned to me that I sounded way more confident at LDI compared to the very first episode of Artistic Finance. And while I wouldn't say I'm a confident public speaker now, compared to the Ethan from episode 1, I'm basically Winston Churchill. Because I strongly believe that artists need to be discussing finance and need to be having honest money conversations, I put myself out there and I continue to do so. So if you're an introvert, know that I see you, I get you, and I'll support you in any way that I can when you put yourself out there. So if you like this content and want to keep it going and see us at LDI again, please remember to follow and subscribe to the show wherever you listen. An Apple Podcast review is always a wonderful thing if you have it in your power to leave one. And if you're feeling particularly supportive of the content I'm creating, please join the 20 other artistic financiers who have become patrons. And when you pledge your support, you'll get early access to episodes and a private podcast feed. Do that at patreon.com/artisticfinance. And the final thought for today. Our most recent patron has instigated a movement to replace our theme music. So if you have an opinion to keep it or replace it, email me at artisticfinancepodcast@gmail.com and let me know. That's it for today. Until next week, break a leg.
Thank you for listening to Artistic Finance. Make sure to subscribe. To access our show notes, transcripts, or resources, go to artisticfinance.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any decision, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Artistic Finance. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.